This young man, Daniel, who I met in the spring of 3 years ago, who gave his talk on complementary currency, that this is taking place. Daniel spent a lifetime working on complementary currency and alternative currencies, and he's gathered around a group of supporters who are going to make this a reality here in Puna. This is the title of my little talk, Our Journey from Lack to Fulfillment, Connecting to the Flow. You're not going to understand everything that's talked about today. Some of this is going to be confusing. I don't get it, all right? But I hope you'll get the overview, the glossary of what's happening. That the reason we have scarcity, the reason we have poverty, is because there's a lack of flow. It's just very simple. When there are not enough dollars flowing through an economy, you have what's called a depression or a recession. Things stop. People are out of work. People can't go afford to buy things. People lose their homes. It's all because of a lack of flow. So our goal here today is to get the flow going. That's the one key theme of today's, of all our presentations, is to increase the flow. And I think you'll see magic starts to happen when people start to connect. Just to review some statistics about Puna. We have the third highest unemployment rate in the state, the third lowest per capita income in the state. The highest percentage in the state of families who rely on food stamps. And here's something positive. In the last 10, 20 years, this is the fastest growing area of Hawaii. People are moving here. That's flow into Puna. That's something that we can build on. The top three, we need to work on changing. This is one of my favorite quotes. Some of you probably know this, by Margaret Mead. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So we've been meeting as a small group for the last 6 months, every week, every Thursday, mostly at the pavilion in Seaview. You can come meet us next week and be part of this discussion. And it's that repetition, that ongoing meeting, that has caused the creation of this event. We'll come back to this again. Okay, so this is a nice Archimedes diagram that summarizes the basic contradiction we need to resolve. On the one hand, we have tremendous abundance here in terms of nature, in terms of what's been produced. We have the most intelligent people, highest quotient of intelligent people I've yet met, and I've been pretty far around the world. At the same time, we have scarcity. People are loath to give up dollar bills. People are loath to spend money. So why is this happening? How can we create flow? How can we make this desert bloom? So as I said, we're going to work today on expanding the flow. Now, we're focused on money as part of that flow. There are other ways of creating flow, through yoga, through spirituality, through conversation. Nonviolent communication, for example, increases the flow between people. But our focus here is on money. And money is simply an agreement that people have to value something, that they hold together in value. Nothing very fancy about that. So, all of you perhaps have in your pockets right now what we can call, if I find mine, for example, legal tender. You all have dollar bills, which says in it, it's here to pay debts. You use dollars to pay your taxes. So this is the currency. This is the main legal currency in this country. But we are under the false impression that this can be the only currency in this country. So when this currency dries up and stops flowing, people have less. So then it becomes our job to create new flows. So one of the basic assumptions of this currency is that there is scarcity. that there's not unlimited amounts of dollar bills floating around. Most people don't have, people really basically see their dollar bills as being scarce resources that they, use perhaps for saving, but they don't spend easily. Next assumption about legal tender is that competition enhances the flow. We live in a competitive environment. You want to get ahead, you compete. You win the race. That's how you get to the top. We're acculturated with this value from the day we're born. It's pretty hard to escape, even living here in Puna. It exists. The notion of how competition, particularly when you're actually touching this dollar bill. This is something we want to hold on to. Third assumption that some of us have is that our worth, notice the word worth here, is determined on what is our net worth. Now, I personally think that's an illusion, but I also think for many of us, in fact, our net worth comes to equal our self-worth. And that has sad implications. So those are some of the assumptions underlying this dollar bill. And as a result, what we're left with is people holding on, grasping to, keeping, not sharing easily. Again, I'm just saying that these are dynamics. Now, another form of currency, that was legal tender. Now we're talking about a whole new field of currency that I'm slowly learning about. And I really suggest you go online, go to YouTube, plug in complementary currency, do your homework. I'm just going to give you a brief overview about this. But you need to do your homework. Because I sat where you sat 3 years ago, and Daniel gave a presentation, and I was lost. I was intrigued, but I was lost. All right? So you just need to do your own work so you understand this, because we're changing consciousness. We're changing our awareness of, in fact, how we relate to each other. And we're seeing that they're alternative. Again, it's an alternative. We're not going to replace dollar bills, but we are going to complement dollar bills in the way we connect to each other. So the sole purpose of complementary currency is this very simple: bring together unused resources, such as labor, skills, your expertise, food, etc., with unmet needs. That's all complementary currency does. You do not use it for savings. You do not use it to pay your taxes. You use it to exchange, to create flow with your neighbors, with the community. The assumptions of complementary currency. Number one, we live in a world of abundance, not scarcity. Notice that they're opposite. I like this quote by Wayne Dyer. Doing what you love is the cornerstone of having abundance in your life. So we want you all here to share your gifts with each other, to exchange your gifts with each other. So it's not like money's coming down from heaven and it's free, but the more you become empowered in terms of giving your gift, the more enriched you will be. Second assumption, cooperation enhances the flow. Again, the opposite of legal tender. Here we're working together. There's no notion of a win-lose situation. If he gets it, I lose out. It's just the total opposite. We're in and creating a win-win situation here. We're all winners. And in fact, if we all don't get involved, there will be no winners. And finally, synergy. The whole is greater than the sum of the parts. So one of the problems of legal tender is that, yes, it is the legal tender unifying this country, but it does tend to isolate people. It does tend to fragment people into groups, into classes, etc. The assumption of complementary currency is to bring people together to create a whole. Puna working together in which the sum of the parts of all its inhabitants create this abundant environment, abundant universe. Now, you say, well, Robert, this sounds very nice, but this just doesn't happen. You're just reading fairy tales to us. So when I read about this town, in Austria, Virgo, who this is a picture of modern day Virgo in Austria, in 1931, like most of Europe, was in the dregs of the Depression. 4,500 people of the town's population, 1,500 people were out of work. Massive economic problems. And the mayor, who was just elected in 1931, Michael Unterguggenberger, excuse my pronunciation, had all these projects he wanted to do. He wanted to pave roads, he wanted to create street lighting, he wanted to extend water distribution, plant trees, build houses, but he had no money. Absolutely no money. So then he had read a book by a man named, by a German writer, Silvio Gesell, called Natural Order, and began to see what he needs to do is create flow of money. And so in fact, he started to issue the town would issue its own certificates to pay for all these projects. And that would be good, for example, that people, got this for their labor and they could use to pay taxes, to pay for food, etc. in the town. Here's an example of workers could be given their certificates. And in the period of, in 13 months, much of his projects were completed. And in fact, it was so successful, people started to come from literally around the world to this town to see what they were doing. This bridge here was built here, I believe it's saying here, built with, so that money that back then was called free geld, or free money, in January 1933. With these certificates, this complementary currency.
Liberated money.
Liberated money, is that what it means?
It's a better
okay, I like that. So what do we learn from this Virgo experiment? And when I read about Virgo, I said, there's a lot of similarities with Virgo and Puna. That in terms of a population being underutilized, resources not being used, relying on the outside world. And yet, in those 13 months, it was turned around. Then you say, well, why only 13 months? Because the Austrian central bank got really nervous because they had competition. And they actually made the government stop the currency. That it was, and after 13 months, it went back to 30% unemployment. And then 5 years later, Hitler came in. So what did we learn from the Virgo experiment? That the importance of finding ways to increase rate of circulation, the more money is circulating, the greater economic activity you're going to have. 2, that you're starting to use your local resources more. And 3, that you'll start to consume local produce, and you'll start importing less from outside. This is for me like a sort of example of the contrast between legal tender and what could be Puna currency. So here you have your dollar bills, you go to Safeway in Hilo, you buy your products. That most of your money that you give Safeway ends up in the mainland, does not stay here in Hawaii. You take your Puna currency, you go one day to Maku Market, go to the Filthy Farmer Girl, buy some soap. Those Puna currencies is going to stay in Puna. That is the critical difference. This currency is staying in here, helping the flow of our economy, getting things moving, not siphoning the money off to the mainland. So you need to be more conscious of where you're putting your money, where you're spending. Is your activity supporting the local environment here, or is it supporting the mainland? So in the short term, this is what our goal is to do in the next steps. We're going to, hopefully by the end of this month, by January, we'll have enrolled 100 members in villages.cc, in the Puna community currency. We'll hold monthly meetings. Our next meeting will be at Haas. I believe it's the second Saturday of the month. You'll get news about that. And notice, we're going to be meeting every month. And we want you to come back to these meetings. We want you to bring friends to these meetings. We want you to become informed. Because, again, we're about changing our consciousness of how we relate to money and what money is. We're going to be continually upgrading villages. Right now it's pretty crude. It's be getting better and better. We're going to create a governing administrative structure. And again, it's an open invitation. We are a democratic, transparent community here. We're building community here. So we meet every Thursday. You'll be told about this. If you'll come join us, that would be great. Long-term steps. By next year, we want to have 500 members. We want to have local merchants in Pahoa and farmers, local merchants in Pahoa and farmers markets accept our currency. Issue currency in plastic coins made by 3D printer. Right now, the money is just going to be digitized money, which has advantages and perhaps some disadvantages. But we want to actually create money that you actually have in your hand. 4, issue currency through mycelium chips on credit cards. And 5, create a physical presence in Pahoa, which we're going to call the Aloha Store. And this store, imagine this in downtown Puna and Pahoa, is going to feature local producers for tourists. So those of you here who create items for sale, they can be featured in that store. Provide expertise to establish new ventures and projects. We'll have experts in the store who will help you get your business going. We have very intelligent entrepreneurial coaches here who can help get your business going. 3, provide opportunities for sharing of material resources, tool libraries, maker spaces, shared equipment and supplies. Provide opportunities for community savings, lending, and investing. This is a long-term plan. I'm talking years. This is the first step here. You're going to need to be, hopefully you'll be patient, and hopefully you'll be involved in creating something that will begin to shift our community in a different direction. So what can you do? Again, I cannot emphasize this enough. This is only going to happen if you want this to happen. Become a member of villages.cc. Bring your friends into villages.cc. And buy local and use Puna hours. So I want to go back. Oh, hold on, it's right here. Well, I just, what did I do wrong? Well, I can't find it. Okay. So anyhow, I was going to end with the Margaret Mead quote. Again, we are creating a revolution here. I don't use that word lightly. But we're going to change the environment, change the way of thinking. And for many ways, I think for many of us, the election in November was a very catastrophic experience. For me, the blessing of that election in November was it said, hey, Robert, I could focus here locally. I could help elect local candidates here. I could help change my community here. I have power here. You know, thank you. I have power here. And that's what kept me going through those dark days. And that's what we invite you to get involved with, to help move this community forward to the community that you want to be part of. So thank you.
Hey, Robert Golden. I'm just going to interject one thing because this, again, great audience. I'm so glad that you showed up. There's a really wonderful skill that I can ask the audience to listen for something. And we have a very specific theme in which the 4 presenters, it's what are we passionate about personally. So Robert just shared exactly what he's passionate about. I hope you heard it. Now we're going to bring Daniel up and he's going to continue it. So for each of the presenters, please listen to what are we passionate about. Thank you.
Well, I'm Daniel. I've been interested in community currencies for about 10 years, specifically this style, villages, and the Web of Trust style I've been using for about 6 years. And I've been really involved with the community. It's actually a pretty large community. around the world that I'm involved with in upgrading and maintaining this software that we're going to be using. So, and I'll say what really inspired me most is, during the Occupy movement, I was just looking at things online, and I saw a link that said Occupy the banks. I didn't really know what that meant. I thought it was probably some protest going to Wells Fargo with signs, but I found out that it was something really completely different. It was really saying, no, let's claim our sovereignty, let go of our reliance upon the existing financial system, and create our own financial system that works for us. So it's really Occupy the banks is like become a bank. It's like banks have held this role of trust in our society for a long time, but with social networks, with new technology, we don't need to rely on those outdated models of guaranteeing trust and reputation. We can cultivate that amongst ourselves and through our peers. For example, Uber, it's like, they're taking over the taxi industry because because the taxi regulation scheme is out of date. We have technology that makes it obsolete. Same thing with banking. And this is what it is. I want to show this slide. So this is basically how it works. It's kind of a simple infographic, but it really shows the idea really clearly. One person has, there we go. That's how it's going to work. So, to do a transaction, if I help out, let's say I get Miguel's help with my bicycle, I would then give him, let's say he helps for an hour, I can give him 1 unit, right? And that means I have -1, he has +1. He can use that 1 with anyone else in the network, and I have an obligation to balance my credit. So instead of doing a credit card with a bank, we're doing it with our friends and without interest, and with the motivation of helping community instead of solely priority being profit. Try and wait for the end, but if it's quick. Okay. So -1, +1, you can use those with anyone else in your network, and you just have the obligation. You want to maintain your integrity, you want to maintain your reputation. That's what this is about. And there's, you're not going to have a bank checking in on you, but you're going to have your friends checking in on you, basically. It changes it up just a little bit like that. So let's see. Hopefully this works. Go to the next slide. Brian? Yep. There we go. I did something over here. There we go. So, traditional mutual credit systems, we're creating a mutual credit system. Traditional mutual credit systems and financial systems in general are centralized. So that means you have one central node, and everyone connects to that node, and then and that node manages everybody's accounts and balances, manages everybody's credit limit, essentially. So you would go apply to a bank. The bank would say, okay, you have a $200 line of credit, and you can use it with anyone else in our banking system. And, and they tie into other banks, so that is actually a little more of it's kind of a decentralized network that they use. But we are creating a distributed network. So that's where everybody, takes on that role of the bank. Everybody determines the credit worthiness of their peers. So we don't have, Puna community currency you're not gonna come to us and we go, okay, you're worth this much. That's not how this works. Other mutual credit systems, time banking systems, do work like that, and it's a functional model that's been very successful all around the world. But we're using the newer model, which is where the individuals take that responsibility upon themselves. And actually, you are liable for the people that you endorse. So basically, so Miguel and I have a trusted connection. I endorsed him, he endorsed me, right? And let's say we give each other, so we're going to give each other a certain line of credit. So once he extends a line of credit to somebody else, then there's a pathway through Miguel to, let's say, Sarit. Okay, I don't know if you guys know each other. Okay. so even, I know Sarit, but let's pretend I don't, right? But because there's a pathway through Miguel, we can still interact with payments. But that payment's actually routed through Miguel, and he's somewhat liable for it. It'll affect his credit line with me if Sarit doesn't participate. So right now, Villages, when you look at it, it looks a little clunky, honestly. And the platform is a little old in tech consciousness old. But this is what our new platform is going to look like, a little more modern. We modeled it after ShareTribe, which is a really popular community marketplace site. So, you send, endorse, contact. We're going to try and make it really straightforward and easy, and we will have an app hopefully in the next couple months. So. And this site should be up next week, so we're hoping for today, but that's kind of how it is. So the language in Villages. So there's, as Robert said, you might not fully grasp every aspect of this system yet, and that is totally okay. That's totally normal. It took me quite a while to understand it as well, but I will say it's 1,000 times more simple than how the dollar is issued, which probably no one in here can even explain completely because a lot of it's done behind closed doors. But this is an open source system. It's all very transparent, right? But it does include new language, new terminology, and again, it'll take you a little while to get it, and that's okay. Just take your time. It'll probably take a couple transactions before you fully understand it. So the key words, endorse. That means I trust someone. When I endorse someone, I'm extending them a line of credit, just like a credit card would extend a line of credit. Only this doesn't have interest. That's the big difference too, and it's really more friendly. In Villages, I don't give someone a line of credit for more than if they never paid back any of it, it wouldn't hurt our friendship. That's how I decide what kind of line of credit I want to give to someone. I don't want to give someone more than could possibly damage our relationship together, because friendship is more important to me than this stuff. I have some friends that I regularly do transactions with, and they have really large lines of credit, and I've been using this system for about 6 years. I'll say that. So it's not a new thing. A lot of people are already using this, and because it's a distributed network, some of the networks might not even be tied together. You might want to have your own micro network within your church or just within your community. Maybe your two next door neighbors are the only people that you feel comfortable doing this with. That's totally fine. And that's kind of like part of the essence of it. It's your financial network. It's not mine. You don't have to trust me at all, basically. Another aspect of the language is the unit of measurement that we're using. So we normally use the dollars, and that's kind of how our minds are trained to think about value is in dollars. Oh, this is worth $20, this is worth $30. The unit of measurement that we are using, and you can actually do this with dollars too, that a lot of communities do. But we are not tying our currency to the dollar. We are using the unit of measurement hours. And those are sustainable hours wage. So that's like the minimum, not minimum wage, but an hour's wage that is sustainable for living, right? And we are estimating that to be about $12. I'd say that's negotiable, and people might have a different perspective. And maybe I take a moment. Do people think $12 is a good sustainable wage? No.
It's not applicable to everyone. Because it's not applicable to everybody. Because as you know, somebody, it may charge $50 an hour for a special.
So this is a negotiable rate. This is just to find a unit of measurement. So you can negotiate how much you get paid per hour. I do web service. I normally charge $30 an hour for my services. So I would charge 2.5 hours per hour of my time, for example. So it's a negotiable unit. The only aspect that is questionable is what's a sustainable wage. When people help me on my land, I usually pay them $10 an hour. If I have to pay more, I'm a little like, oh, I don't know. And that is a little negotiable. Our group is really we've been talking about so much, and it seems like there's a consensus around $12. I wanted to bring it to this group to see what other people think, because that's negotiable, and it'll probably change over the years. Especially if there's some kind of inflationary crisis with the dollar. I don't want to project that, but if something like that were to happen, the value of our unit would definitely change. And we'd be at one of these meetings once a month, and we go around and we say, okay, what is a sustainable wage? Do we have time for that right now? That's the moment, right? We do it at the end? Okay. So we're saying $12. We can have a discussion about that after our lecture. Mycelium card is a really cool technology that as we upgrade our network to make it more distributed, we're going to be using existing financial software for security, for censorship resistance, and for verifiability, basically, to prevent tampering. And that network is called, we're going to be using blockchain or Bitcoin network. Not using that currency, so you can ask me about that if you want to, but we're just using the software that underlines it. Okay? And using that software opens us up to a whole realm of possibility. For example, these mycelium cards are a standalone card that let people transfer credit peer-to-peer directly between the cards. And you can do it totally offline at the beach with no connection at all. And the cards will just resync once they come back into internet area. So these are a really cool thing. Also, using this network, you'll be able to buy and sell your credit and even put it into your bank account, transfer it into your bank account, buy gas, things like that. This is a future step, but it will be interoperable with the existing financial networks. It's not separate, basically. And it works kind of similar too. So as Robert said, we want to create an Aloha store featuring local products, and we'll have our own local money. And that will be a centrally issued money. Digital is great because we can do this peer-to-peer credit thing, but to have paper, or a 3D printed thing, we need to have a central hub, and they need to be a liable issuer. And that's okay. I think there's a lot of room for many varieties of local currencies. And I'll also say that the Hawaiian government, they have it in their constitution that they are going to be creating a commodity-backed money. So that's like a silver, gold type of money. Silver and gold, people have a tendency to save it, hoard it. Credit, it's a long discussion to dive down this, but credit is something you want to spend. We want to stimulate the economy, we want to get people collaborating. So we're moving forward with this credit-based currency. And again, there's room for many of them. Shares in local companies, all kinds of different options. In the future, we'll have built into the app ride sharing. Another cool thing about with new technology, we can do what's called smart contracts and have peer-to-peer insurance type plans. So there's no company maintaining our insurance plan. It's just run by the consensus of your group. And you can certainly do that with our mutual credit system. And our goal is to integrate it with our platform. Crowdfunding. Not only can you give lines of credit to cool projects that you think are worthwhile, you can donate your time and credit towards it. Another aspect of, so I want to mention again that the traditional financial system is geared towards making a profit. People issue loans, people issue lines of credit to make a profit. That's the sole motivation. When a community is creating their own currency, the motivation is completely different. The motivation is making your community better. So, I mean, you can just think about the things that get invested in our society, whether it be DAPL or, this crazy stuff. It's like but people know we are more apt to invest in, say, a local, grocery store or dance studios or, cool creative projects that our friends might be doing. Yeah, and I will end my talk by saying, we are the banks, occupy the banks. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. That was really good. Did anybody hear his passion? You heard his passion? It's really good, right? It's there. Okay, while we're here, first of all, does anybody want to move up? We've got 2 seats here, but you got to be kind of quiet. The microphone's here. Some seats over here. If anybody wants to move, it's all voluntary if you like to. If you're comfortable, that's cool. Okay, I'm going to cover the news stories, and this is where my passion lies, because we're in a very relevant conversation that's happening all around the world, and you'll see that there's nuances of it, what they're trying. Little groups and tribes and societies and people like this are trying to do what we're trying to do here. And what stokes me out, I'm going to share, is that when I island hopped, I moved from Las Vegas. My son was born in Vegas, and I lived on Kauai for 9 months. Then I'm Oahu for 6 weeks, didn't like it. Maui for 9 months. And then in 2012, my son and I moved here, and we really felt like it was home. It was really aloha, welcoming, and just really helped us land. And it was the community that I was looking for. And so much of the smiling faces that are here, people that I feel a vibe with and can trust and want to help out, and they're doing stoked projects. I've often said that Puna is just totally progressive and pioneering. And that's what I love about it. So I'm going to cover some of the news stories that we have of what's happening around our world, mainland and that type of stuff, which is making this real ripe for what we're up to. So Sweden may issue a national currency, a cryptocurrency based on the Bitcoin blockchain called the e-krona. And forgive the small print here. Anybody can make a request for this presentation and we can send it to you. I'm going to read the highlights for you, and if you want a copy, we can send it to you. So the Central Bank of Sweden is contemplating adopting a national digital currency as a complementary solution to a sharp decline in the use of physical cash in the country. All right. The technology is being considered, and it seems to acknowledge that central banks are in danger of losing control. We don't really worry about that, do we? And then it says that we need to do the homework because it's not an option for the public sector to stay on the sidelines and see the private sector cut off access to central bank money for individuals. And how true is that? We've had this major bailout since 2008, and the trickle-down economics has not worked for us. So what I love about the people out here is we're really pioneering. We just say, hey, we'll go out, we're going to solve our own problems, which we've been doing, and we do it with a lot less money. Barcelona is very near and dear to my heart. They've been operating close to a year without a government at this point, so they're effectively operating in anarchy. And it's because challenges, it's almost a null government at this point. So they're set to issue their own local currency. What I have is the so-called social currency would be used to buy local goods and services at a discount while having a one-to-one parity with the euro. As Daniel shared, we can make our currency on pair, or paired to the dollar if we wanted to. It makes it a little easier if we take the hours based on like $12 or something like that. It makes it easy to calculate our exchanges. But this was one solution that they're taking on. Here's another cool idea. How cool would it be if the mayor of Hawaii took his whole salary in the local Puna community currency? Think about that. So this mayor is taking in the Bristol pound. On to a little further, San Francisco is issuing their Bay Bucks, and they're hoping to boost local business. That's an important point. We do have businesses, we have small entrepreneurs, small businesses here, and just individuals. The currency obviously would be to support all. How do complementary currencies work? In this article it said the short answer is just like normal money. The only difference is they can only be used within a restricted geographical area and with businesses or individuals that sign up for the scheme. To clarify that, I'd like to say that we don't necessarily have to be restricted. I do know that people kind of have, like, they come in during the winter and then they'll leave and they'll go somewhere else. So there are certain transactions that can be digital. If you wanted a remote session with somebody and they're somewhere else, I know that we have this kind of ebb and flow of people that come and go. You are not restricted. You can invite somebody from mainland or Thailand or whatever, and who knows, they might work out an exchange. You just really have to be at a level where you trust them and you send out the first line of credit, and that will introduce them to any of the products and services on the network. That being said, anything that's available is viewable. You just can't do a transaction until you issue a line of credit or there's already a line of trust between you and who you're interested in doing a transaction with. Here's on the Bay Bucks. Their plan argues that by using local currency, businesses can boost the local prosperity by circulating a currency that will never leave the local area or local business. That's exactly what Robert covered. The argument goes that by increasing local spending, which is what local currencies are all about and why central banks are nervous, the local economy will benefit as a whole and businesses will be able to employ more people. Time banking, we'll bring this to the US. This is in St. Louis. They offer it as an alternative currency platform to exchange services. Here we go. Time banking provides wider access to goods and services for community members. You can use that one time credit to receive 1 hour of service from anyone else in the time bank. It has here, while Japan is credited with creating the world's first time bank in 1973, St. Louis's first time bank came along soon thereafter. In 1981, Grace Hill Settlement House had the first time bank. The time bank was thriving in the 80s. It had hundreds of members and thousands of hours were being exchanged. That's what we're holding a vision of, and I'm glad that you're all here because it totally seems like it's possible for us too. Time banking is just the next step in a centuries-long human history of neighbor-to-neighbor exchanges for goods and services. Time banking gave her an outlet to give her time and when she could, and receive needed services in return. OTE sees time banking as a network where everyone, regardless of skill set or background, can benefit and contribute. This is a little further out there, and this might be where we lead to as our Puna community currency takes more solid ground, is that Oakland just voted to explore public banking. So in response to a long-term economic instability and disappointment with the mainstream banking system, Oakland City Council voted Tuesday to investigate a public banking feasibility study funded by money left over from the Goldman Sachs Department proceedings. Yes? A little further down, so the city, it instructs the city staff to consider the feasibility of an Oakland-specific public bank and propose the possibility of partnering with other jurisdictions to form a regional bank. All right. It will achieve multiple policy objectives, including stimulating economic development, spurring job creation, reducing municipal debt service, and expanding the tax bases through direct, long-term local lending at below market rates. Our rates, by the way, are 0. So this, he says, it marks the first important step in the process of investigating public banking for the city of Oakland or a larger region, including its benefits for our budget and its wider societal impacts. So here's the summary now that we covered this. I shared there's this worldwide current conversation with plenty of historical examples to draw both courage and information from. We can be informed from each of these news stories. There is a wide range of alternative or complementary currencies, time banking, there's options, and that's what we're exploring in smaller groups. I feel with our technology team, we've adopted the best of the best. We pick and choose from them and put them into one solution. Obviously, it's an ongoing conversation and iterations. We can come out with new technology. That's why we want you involved. We want feedback, which helps us improve. And that it's an exciting opportunity to do it in our own progressive and pioneering way, what I would say the Puna style. And I'm going to conclude with one last comment, which ties back into when we moved here. One of the most important things that I saw, because I was running out of savings, and I had quite a high burn rate in Las Vegas, and it was really interesting to go from a high burn rate with a lot of waste of money, time, and energy to a low burn rate, like really low overhead and cost here, and that how it gave me a lot more peace of mind and free time, which I certainly appreciated investing into my son and to be available for projects that were happening in the Puna area. I feel that this is a commonality with others, and that's why I think we have a very, very unique opportunity to not only be one of the stories, but I'd love to see that we are the best story, the best success story for an alternative currency. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Maddie. I recognize some of you. I'm glad you all made it out. So to continue on Bryan's high stoke for Puna, when I first moved to Puna over a year ago, I was blown away because not only was I relieving myself of the rat race of the mainland, I had found something that I didn't even really know existed, like in my consciousness, but subconsciously I knew that I was looking for this. And what I found here was people who were just stoked to be alive, living their dream in one way or another, and pioneering for the rest of the planet. And so that was super rad because everybody else on the mainland is in this, like, they're on the hamster wheel and they can never get off because they're realistically choosing slavery and they don't even know it. So that really bummed me out. So being in Puna is amazing. So, can you imagine yourself creating wealth for yourself and your community by doing what you love? Some of you maybe already do this, but you're not necessarily getting exchangeable hours or some sort of compensation. You're just giving it away because you love it regardless, right? So before I get into this slide, I want you to sit with maybe a moment you've had where you couldn't pay your bills or you had debt collectors calling and you were totally deprived and lacking of funds, or you didn't have a place to live and you were just really down and out. You didn't know what you were worth and you were depressed and very fearful in a scarcity mindset. Can anybody relate to that? I can. It fucking sucks. So instead of going down that rabbit hole, I want us to take a moment and to feelize these feelings. So we want you guys to feel blissed out. We want you to feel like you're in the flow, you're giving your gift, you're receiving compensation for it. It's easy, it's not hard. We want you to feel connected to your people. We want you to feel empowered, like you're doing something that you love. We want you to feel fulfilled, like you're actually contributing to the greater good. We want you to feel satisfied, like you're actually being received for what you love doing. We want you to feel freedom, like you're free to be here, you have extra spare time to create these types of things. These are really important, and beyond that, above all else, you're helpful. And everybody knows that it feels really good to be helpful, because as humans, it's our innate desire to be helpful to one another. We're not born evil, unless some of you are. I don't think anybody in this room is, but I think we all want to be helpful at the end of the day. So these are some of the feelings that you will get using Puna community currency. So I'm going to help you guys think about what you love to do and how to create your offers. So to get down to this, we need to get into the trifecta of you. When you were a little kid, I'm sure there was something you could spend hours doing that you would get lost in and you loved to do and you were naturally really good at. You wanted to study it, learn more, to share with your friends, talk about it. And beyond childhood, we get into something that maybe we've gone down another pathway and we've chosen a career that we were pretty stoked on in the beginning and then we got a little disillusioned or burnt out on. Can anybody relate to that? From that, maybe we were allured by the money. It was something that we thought would give us happiness, getting a nice car, a super nice house, getting married, and then you're still not really fulfilled in the core of who you are. So where I hope we all are now, or we're getting there, is we know what we like to do. We have evidence of our past, of what we were really good at, and we can bring all these things together to kind of create your offering on what you want to give, not based on what you'll be paid. So that's a very different mindset, right? So first things first, we're going to get into a little bit more of the practicality. We're going to get you guys on villages.cc. If not today, you can do it at home, but we hope you can do it today. We have computers here. If you have smartphones, you can log in online now. And we want you guys to create awesome profiles. So your profile is going to lay out who you are, what you love to do, and we would really appreciate it, I'm sure all you guys would too, if you use correct spelling and grammar. Yeah? Beyond that, you're going to create offerings, and it doesn't just need to be one. You can create multiple offerings, like I love to bake bread. I also have 30 avocados coming in a week. I need to find a place, no. You get what I'm saying. But you can create multiple offerings of what you want to give. Beyond that, we have a really big deal that we need people to post what they need. I'll get into this in a minute. This will help the flow continue to go, because as you create what you need from people, you're creating opportunities for people to serve you in a positive way. This connects the flow, keeps it going, and Daniel got into this a little bit of endorsing and acknowledging people. So you need to extend lines of credit, and you also need to give a review of someone's credibility. So after you work with someone, you can give them, oh, they were awesome, like it was a totally easy experience. Or if it was not so great, this is going to be implemented on the future iteration of villages.cc. You can say, they weren't clear, they're unorganized, it wasn't the best experience. Give a heads up. It's like Yelp, but for people, right? We want to increase integrity for our people, because I know there's a lot of trustworthy people here. I also know that there's a lot of untrustworthy people, and so we want to get clear on who we can trust, who we want to work with. All right, so the top needs of Puna. People need food, and luckily we have a great climate where we can grow a lot of different types of food. People need places to live, and ideally these are places where it's a feel-good, symbiotic living situation, not a master-slave dynamic, right? People need childcare. There's lots of kids and lots of families. People need rides, and so Daniel kind of got into the idea of ride sharing. We can plan ahead a little bit more and get compensation for rides if you need that. We need builders, landscapers, and caretakers. So here we go. This is essentially you, and then these are your networks beyond you. And so when you're creating your offer, this is going to be something that perhaps you already do that is scalable. It's easy for you to duplicate it. Perhaps you're already in business and you're already creating something and selling it at the market. This is a great opportunity for an additional marketing outlet on Villages. Giving your gift makes you a better community member, because people want to know what you're up to. They want to support their neighbors. Creating your offer is going to increase the value for you and your network and our community. It's also going to enhance the safety and the health of our people here. Beyond that, you get to make a positive impact by doing what you love. So, as I mentioned earlier, I said I would get into this. There's a really big deal about asking for what you need and what you want. And Robert got into this on one of his earlier slides, of the difference of feeling worthy, having self-worth, or not. And if you feel like you're not worthy of receiving, you probably have challenges in receiving, and you are in a lack and scarcity mindset. You feel depressed. What good am I for? You know, why am I even alive? These types of thoughts. They can be very detrimental and a very dangerous downward spiral. I've been there. It sucks. So being involved with something like this gives us all great worth. And by getting our needs met, we have to ask. If we don't ask, people don't know how they can help us. So this is where the magic happens. So when you're creating your want, this is going to be something that is an immediate need. Is this a little small for you guys? I fucked it up. Okay, kinda. I think I made it worse. I'll leave it as it was. Okay, anyways. So something that needs immediate attention. You need a ride, you need a place to live, you need food, right? Beyond that, something that has been an ongoing project that you want to complete. Maybe you're building your house and you need a landscaper and you want to finish out the garden. Perhaps there's something you want to learn about that you have always had on your bucket list. You can find people in our local community who are already doing these things and they're really good at it. So we want to connect these two dots between the people. We want to keep the flow going in our neighborhood. We want to support our neighbors and friends. We want to experience our neighbors' passions and strengths, because I believe a lot of us here are really talented at very different things, and it's really interesting. And this also gives great opportunities for community members to be earning credit and becoming more productive and satisfied. So I'm going to get into an awesome profile example. Is Jesse here today?
No,
He's not here. Okay, that's fine. So Jesse is a friend of Robert's, and his profile is great because he lays it out super clear who he is, what he's really good at, and what his experience is. He tells where he lives. I mean, you don't need to give us your exact address, but you get the idea so that we know what neighborhood you're in. And he got a picture of himself. His name is fully there. You can use your made-up magical name, or you can use your birth name. It's up to you. But we want to be easily identifiable, right? So here are a few of our current offerings. We have been seeing a great increase. I think since we made the launch event page, there's been maybe 20 or more of you guys who've added your profiles. We're stoked on that. We'd love to see more, especially not just profiles. That's just the start. We need to see more offerings, what you guys want to offer, and definitely what you guys need so we can get these met. Here, more specifically, Jesse, he says he's free to help Monday, so he's super clear for a couple of hours, mid-afternoon, or mid-morning to afternoon only. And he's very clear also in his offering. Here is yours truly. I call myself a radical transformation coach, and I can help you kind of get back on track with your life. Archer is currently not here. She's a professional house sitter. She's traveled all over the world, and she can help you take care of your home while you're away. Here's Bryan. He has created an awesome Myth Matrix e-course and is clearly willing to accept hours for access. So these are great examples of just super straightforward offerings, great English, spelling, grammar, photos. It's clear. So now we want you guys to get clear on what you want to offer. We're going to take a little break in a moment, and as you've probably already heard, does everybody have a raffle ticket? Anybody not get a raffle ticket? Tom, Yana, Dude, and Silky and Son? Okay. So we'll get you guys raffle tickets. We also want you guys, if anybody here today has an offer that they want to add to the raffle, ideally it would be super rad if everybody left here going home with something that they've won. That'd feel really good. And what else? That's about it for me, guys. So thank you again, and we're gonna get together and make small groups. We'll let you guys choose one of us for your little liaison. We'll hold your hand, get clear on what you're really good at, help you make profiles if you need that, and so on. So thank you.
Hey, Daniel, come on up. Robert, come on up. I was just going to give an opportunity. Yeah, we're going to go into a Q&A with everybody up here, and also your passion. We're going to quickly, if you stay on this side, share your passion. And if you want to, again, this is voluntary. If you want to join with one of our teams, we'd love to be your accountability coach. We'd like to see that your profile gets done. We'd love to see that you do a buy transaction and a sell transaction, and that we are kickstarting it, making it move forward. So I wanted to thank us up here, first of all. A round of applause for us.